This is the Arrma Typhon. Now this is the brushed model. If you get the brushless model actually resembles the Creighton more than that one. That's because the chassis is aluminum on the brushless. This is just a little size comparison between the two. If you're a beginner, if this is a first RC or you're giving it as a gift, to be honest, that would be the better choice. If you want to bash and do extremely high jumps, then this is obviously the better choice. But I'm not here to talk about this one, so let's get talking about this one. And this here will look very, very familiar to some of you. And the reason why is if you get the brushed model, go ahead and take the body off. That looks very similar. So if you've ever had a granite, for example, or a Senton or anything like that, that should look very familiar. The other thing that is very, very similar, and by very, very similar, I mean the same, would be the transmitter. Now the transmitter, let me just orient the camera correctly, is a very nice transmitter for an RTR. It is quite cheap compared to, let's just say, a basic Futaba or Sanwa, but for an RTR, it's very good. Now, if we look at the rear, that very first toggle right there, you can go 50% power to 75% power to 100% power. So the 50% power, this is similar to what Traxxas calls training mode, but for Traxxas, you have to go into the ESC and count blinks. For here, for this one, just toggle the switch, and that's all you need. Throttle, you can reverse throttle, reverse steering. So if you ever replace the servo for whatever reason, say you replace this, and it steers the opposite direction, instead of clicking buttons and going through some weird menu, if you have a Traxxas and that's the issue, I do have videos on that, on how to reverse the steering and how to reverse the throttle. But on this one, you would just toggle those switches and that would be it. Now in the front, you have your steering trims and throttle trims, so you have your trims over here. But again, nice little transmitter, takes 4 AA batteries. The motor is a brushed motor, very simple motor. If you wash the motor, I do have a video on washing brushed motors. It's not going to give you more top speed, but it will give you a little more torque when you clean up those brushes and wash it. But going back to the tub, if you look at that tub, I'm going to go ahead and bring out the Senton. So if you're familiar with the Senton, wouldn't you know? They're the same vehicle. So the brushed Typhon and the brushed Senton, they're actually the same vehicle. You just get a few minor changes. For example, because this is a buggy, you do get the guards, which are very nice, especially if you decide to run it on a carpet track. You need the guards so it doesn't tear off the carpet. So that's something you do not get here. But, I mean, look at the body mounts. See, it's just these little screws. Where are they? Right there. And on the other side, I mean, just put them there. And the same thing for the rear, right? You would have to remove the wing because the wing is there. So remove the wing, get rid of that. So you're actually removing this entire thing. So this piece down here, this is this piece. That's where this goes. But they are the exact same thing. So parts are interchangeable. And when I say exact same thing, it's not the exact, obviously, because I just mentioned a few differences. But replace the mounting holes, and you can turn that into a short course truck. And there's something cool about it. But let me go ahead and take this out, and I'll focus on this one right here. Shaft is very nice, so this slides in. Now when you're taking it apart, remove this little red bit, screws on the bottom, right down there, and take this off, slide the shaft, and then pull on this, and you can go ahead and remove that. So this kind of slides out. I'm not sure if you've ever taken one of these apart, or if you've seen it, you see how it keys in, just kind of slides in. So you can go ahead and do that, but the tubs are the same. Divs are the same. If you're just running this in brushed mode, it's perfectly fine out of the box. If you plan on upgrading this to a 3S system, go with much heavier diff fluid in the front, maybe even 1,000,000, or you could even use a spool to lock it. The reason why is if you do not, this will want to lift up as you're accelerating hard, and then one of the things that may happen is you start taking turns, or even if you don't take turns, well, say you're taking turns, you might diff out the front, and a variety of things can happen. One, you could damage the differential, or two, you can actually destroy one of those plastic shafts. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, Pirelli is probably the closest brand with something similar. Traxxas does not have anything similar to this, and what I mean is because, well, this is supposed to be a buggy. That's the reason why. Now you could get, for example, the Rally, but that's a different style vehicle. You could get the short course mounts from the Sentin and then get maybe a Baja bug body. That looks really cool. And then you could go that route. But this is honestly going to be a better vehicle. So if you look at price point, this one, as of this video, is about $270. Sometimes there's sales. When I got this one, this was actually a scratch and dent. So I got this for a very good price. I'm not going to mention on this camera, but do shop around. And you can't beat it, especially if you compare this to the Slash 4x4 or the Rally. The Traxxas Rally and the Slash 4x4, they're the same vehicle. The Rally just has the better tires. But you can't beat these. Why? Ta-da! 17mm hubs, and that's what makes this car so special. Instead of using a 12mm or a weird 14mm, which is what the T-Max used to have, still has, I believe, this one has a 17mm hub system, which means that it opens up your options to 17mm monster truck wheels and tires. There's, I think Proline actually makes a 17mm wheel for short course if you want it short course, but monster truck tires, you can get a variety. If you want something that's maybe not too big, too exaggerated, Proline makes I believe they're the Trencher LPs. I have a set somewhere. Those are actually probably very similar in height. No, they're taller, but they're probably twice the width. And then you can even go crazier with something much bigger, but I wouldn't go too big on them because then you start stressing out suspension components. The shafts are about 3.5mm, so about 3.5. I believe it's about 3.4. Let's say 3.5 rounded up, but it's very nice. And the other thing too is, like I mentioned, sometimes these things are on sale. You could pick one of these up for maybe 220 or something, and they're 4-wheel drive. So they're very usable, very practical in different areas, and very bashable in a way. For price point, it's very difficult to beat something like this. So keep that in mind. The electronics are good enough. They're good enough. I'm not going to say they're the latest and the greatest, not by a long shot. But a simple system for about $150 that you could get is the Hobby Wing. On something like this, I would go with the 3200 kV. I wouldn't go with the 36, maybe the 36 if you really want to. Definitely not the 4000 or the 4300. Now those kV ratings, it depends if you get the easy run or the Z run. The Z run's the censored. That's actually my choice. That's what I would go. Just make sure that the motor that you're getting is the 3660 series. So 36, that would be 36mm in diameter, which is very similar, and 60mm in length. That's what that means. So don't get the 3652, that one's too small, you're gonna overheat it. Get the 3660. Now Castle Creations makes some really nice motors too that you can get for about $100 more. You can get a Copperhead ESC, and they have, make sure you get the 5mm shaft as well. I'm trying to remember what the one I got is. It's a crazy motor. It's Forest capable, but it's just over 3000 kVs. Now when you're running 4S, it runs at lower kVs, but still, it's insane. It's insanely fast. That's not on this. I actually have it on my Fortec right now. But those are some of the things to consider. So you do get long travel suspension. Shock bodies, yes, they are plastic, but they're not bad if you actually bash them up. All these links, they're much thicker plastic than some of the competitors, for example, Traxxas. Now, one of the things is don't go too wild and crazy because you may break the tub. Sometimes they can break, so that's something to keep in mind. But the knuckles, they are actually very, very robust. So even though they are plastic, they are very strong. Keep in mind, 2S on this stock system, this vehicle is going to be able to take abuse and last quite a long time. Again, maintenance is not optional, meaning you have to maintain the vehicle. First of all, don't run it in water. And then if you do, don't leave it outside for a month for it to dry. You need to go in there and dry it, use maybe some WD-40, other things like that. But this is the Typhoon, which is a fabulous car. This is one of the cars I like best, to be honest. The other one's the Granite. Granite, I think, is somewhat underrated. But this is a vehicle that I do recommend, and it's something to consider. Tires are relatively nice, but I would definitely consider some trenchers for it. I hope this video was informative or at least entertaining. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll catch you in the next one.
What? Oh, my hair! My car! My rod!